like he's seen the cows mating, he's seen the chickens be killed, and like
The whole process.
yeah, you're very willing to let him run around, and he's fine, and he's very.
But yet he has compassion for things. It's not like he's, you know, like I had said with the bees, so he saw them all dead, or the bird. He still understands at such a young age what, I mean, maybe he doesn't totally understand the process of death, but he still feels compassion for these living things that he grows attached to, and then they get killed. And then he eats them. So we've seen him do the whole thing.
You've seen the whole process with it, yeah. I have always been very communicative with my kids. I talk to them about everything. So many kids, I think, are raised in a box or in front of the box. You know, they sit in front of their television, and that's where they get their information. And mom and dad both go off to work, and the kids either are raised by a daycare or by the television. And we've disconnected from life. It would be nice if parents could spend more time actually communicating what's going on in the world. But, you know, they grow up in a city, they don't have as much access to what's going on in the world either. And it takes a real effort to go through making that available for kids to learn. But if you, parents, people tend to be bashful about sex, about drugs, about alcohol, about any of the things we're supposed to teach our kids. We just seem to be bashful about communicating. And I'm not sure if that's just perpetuated by each generation, or the society as a whole perpetuates that, or what exactly. But he and the other kids have been talked to about it in a very frank and open manner from when they could first hear me talk. You know, there was never me saying, you know, oh, don't watch that, or don't do that, or, you know, we can't have you near that. It was just a very frank discussion of, you know, this is what they're doing, and this is how they're doing it, and this is why they're doing it, and this is why we're killing this, or this is why, you know, we have to do the things that we do. But I also try to teach, like, you know, say that he has the compassion. He's like, I don't want to kill these animals. I don't, you know, this is my friend. But he understands, you know, that we do it, and he's there to participate in it, and then he's quite happy to eat his chicken. He's just been exposed to it in such a natural way, I think, that there's no hang-ups and hiccups, really.
Going off what Joe was saying about incorporating a lot of these things into city life, how do you think that people can eat better without having access to grow their own garden?
They're in a pickle. They really are. It's a pretty complicated thing. I mean, I think eating organic, Americans think that their food costs a lot of money, but we actually spend a lot less on our food in America than most cultures do. I think we spend like 10% of our income on our food, and other cultures it may be up to 40 or 50%. So we think we're really spending a lot, but we're not. And if we spend money on food that has more nutrition in it, or is more healthy for us, you'll get those paybacks in health. We're a society of instant gratification. I want to pay for my food, I want to pay for it now, and I want it cheap, and I want it fast. And you can get all that. And when you're 50 or 60, you can spend your time instead sitting in the doctor's office. You're going to pay for it one way or the other. We're really fond of finding cures for all these ailments that we're having now, but we're not very fond of finding the cause. You know, why are we getting diabetes? Why are we getting autism? Why are we getting Alzheimer's? Why are people coming down with so many new cancers? Nobody wants to answer the why question, because there's no money in it. There's money in cures, there's money in drugs, there's money, you know. We're going to find the cure for this. How about let's find the cause of this and stop it before it starts. You know, we're now in a generation where the kids are going to live shorter lives than their parents did. Infant mortality is actually climbing in the United States. Why? Why? Nobody asked why. Let's fix it, but let's not ask why. Well, you can't fix it unless you find out why it's happening. You can patch it, you can Band-Aid it, but you can't stop it. And so we need to stop it by going back to why it's happening. Did I answer the question?
Yeah.
What else was the question?
We were talking the other day about being related to the USA and how it's, in relation to GMOs and how that's passing over to other countries. Do you think it's a very US specific problem, or do you think it's the West? Or
Using GMOs is a specific problem to the U.S. or?
the rising rates of
The trends of
diseases
GMOs internationally versus in America.
and new diseases and
Oh, related to disease. Well, I think you can find out that if you look at cultures that haven't yet started importing or utilizing the genetically modified stuff, that their health problems, the health problems that we are seeing are not as strong. I don't have any data to back that up, but, to show you or to say that they're more healthy because they're not having the GMOs. I just know that we went from a fairly healthy society to being a lot less healthy since the 90s. I do have some data where I can show you the rates of disease, and you can watch the usage of GMOs since the 90s, the mid-90s, when they really started to push the GMOs into our food system. And you can see the trends of the illnesses, follow the same GMO lines. They tend to trail right along with the increased use of GMOs. And so I think that other countries are somewhat figuring these things out ahead of us. They're using us as an example instead of just jumping on the bandwagon. Some of them started to get on the bandwagon and then said, wait a minute, maybe we need to slow down here a little bit. So I think that other countries, if they can hold off long enough, can avoid going through some of the health problems that we're seeing. I was just reading a little blurb that came over my internet the other day that El Salvador has rejected $277 million of aid from the United States because the aid comes with utilization of GMOs. And they're trying to get back to sustainably farming, and they don't want the GMOs in there. So they're trying to fight, but you have a country that's ravaged by wars and storms, and they really need that money. But we're holding the Monsanto, check and saying, unless you guys take our seeds, you can't have this money. And where our government and our corporations are married to each other and totally, interconnected. Monsanto's lawyer runs the FDA. I mean, how more tied together can you get than that?
Can you explain a bit more about Monsanto and what he does, and then how it incorporates becomes?
Yeah, Monsanto was originally a company that started producing chemicals for World War II. I don't know their exact history. I can't specifically say this is when they started and this is what they were doing. They were the producer of Agent Orange. So they created the chemicals that we use to defoliate. Well, when the war was over, they have all these chemicals and now they don't have anybody to buy them. So they reformulated a bunch of stuff and started producing fertilizers and herbicides and pesticides. And by holding on to the controlling access to these things and buying up over time all the other companies that were related to them, or most of them, Monsanto now not only holds the bigger share of the control in fertilizers, herbicides, and pesticides, but also they have bought up all the seed companies on a big scale. They don't own them all, but they own most of them. Or their subsidiaries own them. I mean, it's this spider web of connection. So when the company that makes the seed that can be sprayed with the chemical, and they own the chemical that you spray it with, and they own the fertilizer that you put on the soil, Monsanto's goal is to control the food. And if you control the food, you control the people, you control the money, you control everything. I mean, there's two things, no, there's three things we have to have: food, water, and air. And the air, that's kind of hard to control. I mean, you can pollute it, but you can't really bottle it up and say, here's your bottle of air. If we pollute it enough, we might be able to. But it's kind of hard to, put everybody in a bubble and take away their air. But you can take away their water and you can take away their food. And the more and more you control the access to the seeds, unless you learn to produce your own seed and replant them, they control you. And we've forgotten how to do that. Most people have not got a clue how to grow a plant to produce a seed to plant the next year. And with Monsanto's Roundup Ready seeds, they'll take you to jail. They'll take you to court, and they will sue the pants off of you if you plant their seeds a second time. And they've got cross-contamination issues all over the place. So your neighbor planted GMO canola, and you planted organic canola. Their seeds and your seeds are getting pollinated by the same bees. Your plants, their plants. Pretty soon you have GMO in your field. Monsanto comes by, they take a sample, they say, you've got our seeds, and you're going to court. And they don't have to win. They don't win half the time. They don't have to win. They can put those farmers into bankruptcy by just taking them to court.
How do you avoid that if you
I'm
have
too little.
neighbors?
I'm too little. Oh, my neighbors, now that there's GMO alfalfa, I'm at risk. The biggest risk for me is the importation of the GMO alfalfa